Simply and cynically to hurt President Biden politically, bad faith Republicans are engaging in revisionist history, both on Twitter and in congressional hearings, about America's withdrawal from Afghanistan. Intrigued? Then click that like and subscribe, and enjoy the video. So in August, September 2021, President Biden ended America's longest war. It was about 20 years. It was the war in Afghanistan. We spent trillions of dollars, thousands of American soldiers dead, countless, men, women, and children in Afghanistan, civilians along the way. The war was finally over, but the country was stained with the blood and treasure of America after 2 decades and 4 administrations, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. Started under a Republican, it ended under a Democrat, and in the aftermath, the dangerously socially regressive, religious, theocratic Taliban, they've taken over the country. The Afghan government is no more, and women and children in particular in Afghanistan, men too, but women and children in particular, are suffering under their regressive rule. Half the country is starving. America has imposed crippling sanctions on Afghanistan to try to bully the Taliban. It's not working so far, but it is a mess. It's an absolute mess. However, Republicans being Republicans, they're acting in bad faith because of course they are, right? And Afghanistan's a really sore subject for me in terms of politics because not only is it extremely complicated, not only, again, did it cost trillions of dollars, thousands of American lives, and thousands more men, women, and children along the way, but it has been weaponized politically by the right against President Biden in particular. And it may seem very difficult to remember, but Joe Biden was once a very popular president. I think when he came into office, he had like a upper 50s, low 60s approval rating, much higher than Donald Trump's ever was. And he was relatively popular for the first 8 or 9 months of his presidency, or 6 or 7 months of his presidency. Almost said pregnancy. That would be strange. And Afghanistan was kind of the turning point. So after the withdrawal from Afghanistan, after America left Kabul, which is the capital of Afghanistan, President Biden's approval ratings began to crater. Okay, and Republicans, of course, in bad faith and but expert political cynicism, pounced on it. This was a beautiful opportunity politically. The facts be damned, right? Don't let the facts get in the way of a good political crisis. And they were blaming the entire evacuation, the entire withdrawal, the chaos that flooded Afghanistan on President Biden. Almost like there was no context. It wasn't a 20-year war. It was almost like, oh my God, the war in Afghanistan must have started in January 2021. How did Joe Biden started the war in Afghanistan? It seemed like Republicans were trying to suggest. And he ended it, and he ended it disastrously. But the truth is obviously much more complex than that. As we said, it lasted 20 years. It began under a Republican, George W. Bush. It escalated under President Obama. It continued under President Trump. And it ended, finally, under President Biden. But then you have posts like this. And this is a reason it's kind of a hot spot for me. Not only is it, the turning point for Biden's approval ratings, which he struggled to get back ever since. And it's because of his, I would argue, very courageous decision to follow through, we'll get to that in a minute, on the decision to leave Afghanistan, which is what the American people wanted and have wanted for years. But even though there's plenty to criticize, there's plenty to scrutinize about the war and the evacuation, under Biden, yes, but under Trump, under Obama, and under Bush as well, Republicans aren't interested in like a good faith bipartisan examination of an extremely messy failure of an invasion and occupation, because the entire project was ultimately a failure. We attempted to nation build in Afghanistan, again, invested trillions of dollars, thousands of lives, and look where we are. But it would be insane to state or even suggest that the primary responsibility for that is on Joe Biden. It's ridiculous. So you have this post from the official Twitter Republican account. Joe Biden's disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal gifted the Taliban $7.2 billion worth of equipment, 78 aircraft, 9,524 air-to-ground munitions, over 40,000 vehicles, more than 300,000 weapons, surveillance, communications, biometric equipment, right? Like he just left it there. Just, here you go, Taliban. Except that's, of course, not true, as I responded. LMFAO, y'all should consider reading the report that you're citing, because there was a special a special inspector general that was assigned to examine the entire evacuation, the entire withdrawal. And there was a comprehensive report, and we're going to look at some of it. And so they're weaponizing, they're cherry picking, and then distorting certain claims or certain conclusions made in that report. So I challenge the Republicans, you guys should actually read the report. $7.2 billion in equipment were given or sold to the Afghan army since 2002, right? So 20 years worth of billions of dollars of equipment that were either gifted or sold to the Afghan government, Afghan army, under President Bush, a Republican, under President Obama, a Democrat, under President Trump, a Republican, and yes, under President Biden. So it wasn't just Biden, it's 4 presidents worth of billions of dollars of munitions that were in this country. And according to this report, the Department of Defense had noted since 2009, under President Obama, and then continuing on under President Trump, that there was inadequate tracking of U.S.-provided equipment. But pretend this is all Biden's fault, LMAO. And it's true. If you look at the report, and again, it's very well written, it's extremely comprehensive, like 150 pages or something like that. At no point does the report like really finger point. It's not trying to blame any particular president, but if you actually look, what you find is that the equipment left behind in Afghanistan, which is the size of like 4 U.S. states, wasn't U.S. equipment. We just didn't bring stuff over there and leave it. It was stuff that was given or sold to the Afghan government and its fledgling military for the past 20 years. Bush gave them or sold them equipment. Obama gave or sold them equipment. Trump gave or sold them equipment. And so did Biden. And the idea that we would somehow be able to just collect all that in a country the size of Afghanistan, again, 4 or 5 U.S. states, depending on what states you're looking at, vast territory, that was being ruled by a corrupt, collapsing government, that was being swept by a native insurgency. There was absolutely no way for the United States to get out of Afghanistan and also spend the months or years it would take to just comb through the entire country and collect everything. It's just not possible. And I'll remind everybody, because this is the other thing. Joe Biden executed a commitment made by the Trump administration to the Taliban. It wasn't Joe Biden who sat down with the Taliban, tried to sit down with them at Camp David and say, hey guys, we'll get out of your country. Donald Trump and the Trump administration in February 2020 made a direct commitment, made a promise to their buddies, the Taliban, hey, we're going to get out of Afghanistan. They didn't even include the Afghan government in those negotiations and those conversations. They just completely bypassed the government that we spent trillions of dollars and thousands of lives attempting to train and prop up. Didn't even include them, just dealt directly with the Taliban and said, hey, we'll get out. And throughout 2020, and up to the very end of Trump's presidency, which is January 2021, the United States honored its obligation. Trump withdrew troops from Afghanistan. He released 5,000 Taliban prisoners, people who worked for the Taliban and were imprisoned by the Afghan government. Trump bullied the Afghan government into releasing 5,000 Taliban. So he gave the Taliban back 5,000 people, who they then used to help sweep the country. So this idea that just all this started under Biden, and Biden is not president, but somehow he's just God. He's not even, he should be able to snap his fingers and fix the mistakes of 3 other presidents in a fraction of the time in a chaotic situation while honoring a commitment and a context created by Donald Trump. It's impossible. Republicans would never accept that if the shoe was on the other foot. They would never say, wait, you can't expect Donald Trump to clean up all the... Of course, right? So why are they doing it here? Well, they're hypocrites. They're liars and they're hypocrites. They're very cynical. Hey, you! Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, and I hope that you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. And if you absolutely hated the video, the best revenge for you is also to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. That'll teach me. If you want to share an opinion or share some feedback, go ahead and leave a comment, all right? 2023 is a year of change, hence the aggressive rebrand and commitment to new content. Inspired by my friends Luke Beasley and STV Philly, my personal goal for this channel is to hit 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I'm hoping you'll do me a solid by spreading the word and the videos to potential fans and hate watchers alike. And in the meantime, we'll be pondering politics again with you very soon.